Good to finally be back. It's been a while since we were in here. We've been traveling a lot. We had to go to his place for cats for a bit, but we're finally back. It honestly feels a little jank. Like, I know the other setups were jank, but like...
I feel like it actually got worse since the last time we were here. I don't know how we pulled that off, but it is worse.
Yeah. Maybe we could just use that studio over there.
Are we allowed to?
Yeah, I mean, no one's going to stop us.
Okay. We can go over there. I'm down.
Yeah. Let's check that out.
All right, let's do it.
You know, this doesn't seem half bad.
I kind of like it.
I think we can make this work. It's a little fancy for my taste, but we'll figure it out.
You'll find a way to break it eventually. Don't worry.
Sure I will. So the title for this episode is going to be Theo Almost Lost $1 Million, right?
Yes, definitely. That's a very good one. I like that a lot, actually.
This is going to be quite an episode because the paneling behind us is far from what has been most expensive for me over the last few days. Made a tweet that might cost me $1 million, which is a questionable choice that we'll be going very in-depth on. We also are going to be talking about how 5.5 is possibly cheaper than we expected.
Well, yes and no. I put out some tweets earlier today. I might have been spreading misinformation on the internet, but not quite. We'll talk about it.
That'll be fun. Apparently, this is going to be about Grok, your favorite model series.
Is. No, Grok 4.3. I am not a fan of Grok. I am a fan of Grok Code Fast. There is a very big difference. Grok Code Fast is the chosen model, which will get us to AGI. Grok is just a questionable experiment from
He only
XAI.
likes Grok models when they're dumb, not when they're also racist.
True. But also the other ones are pretty dumb too. There's something special about Grok Code Fast's version of dumb.
Sure. We'll be talking about that plenty, as well as your psychosis and how OpenClaw has been fueling it recently.
Yeah,
this guy just bought a phone exclusively for OpenClaw, not like Claw will run on it, just so he has a better experience using OpenClaw.
First of all, I want to be crystal clear here. This man gave me the idea to do this, and he encouraged it.
You do understand that I do this because I know it'll make good content and you're actually dumb enough to do it.
Yeah, but it's going to be really good. It's going to be really good. It is like, it's actually getting good. I'm completely off the deep end. It is fucking over for me, but we'll get to that later.
And apparently Pi is going to come up at some point too, because this is a Ben episode. Of course, Pi is going to come up.
Yeah, Pi has also consumed my brain wholeheartedly.
Should I start with my $1 million woes?
I'm going to be honest. This one had a very happy ending. I really didn't think it would. I really thought that $1 million was gone, but good work.
I'll be honest, I kind of did too. So, for those who don't know, a while back, I got a very generous gift from our friends over at Microsoft. That gift was $1 million of Azure credit, specifically for my startup Ping, the startup that makes T3 chat, T3 code, the Ping services, upload thing, webhook thing, and all the other fun things that we've built over the years. I never saw myself as a big Azure guy, even though I am a bit of a Microsoft defender, I'll be honest with that. Azure was far from my primary choice for things, but there was something Azure was good for: OpenAI model hosting. Since Azure, and Microsoft specifically, had that exclusive deal with OpenAI, it was possible to use OpenAI's models on Azure, which means that credit is effectively an OpenAI credit, which is why I was so excited to get it. We spend a lot of money on OpenAI models for T3 chat. So getting this out of Microsoft was awesome. I was so excited to go use it, and then I ran some tests. And the performance, pitiful isn't being aggressive enough. How much slower would you guess the Azure endpoints are from the OpenAI ones? You might think, okay, like it can't be that much worse, but it's probably worse, like 20%, 30%, 50%. Like, what would you have guessed?
Before all this happened, I've probably a 30% hit. Like, hypothetically, they have weird Microsoft-y chips. I don't know what's happening.
And god-awful checks before the prompt goes through. Their security layer is something else. The actual answer was, in base case, around 4x worse. And in the P90, not even P99, just the 10% slowest requests between the two platforms, it was 10 to 20 times slower. You would randomly see spikes in the time to first token, which is how long from when you prompt to when you start getting a response, upwards of 200 seconds, when the worst case for OpenAI was more like 5 to 6. actually fucking insane. I had no idea it was that way. I actually did know it was that bad because I've been dealing with this for a while. I thought it was just random spikes that would happen like throughout the day or on specific days or maybe at specific times of day. And I had seen this on reports from artificial analysis and also from my own usage of trying to make this work in the past. But now that we're doing more and more OpenAI models across all of our platforms, we wanted to give it one more go. And obviously the $1 million of credit gave us yet another incentive to. So I went and tried again, and it was atrocious. I crashed out about this a little bit in a video that's probably already on my channel by now, but the OpenAI Microsoft divorce. That inspired me to go a little harder because I keep staring at this $1 million of credit and just wishing I could use it. So I decided if I can't have it, no one can, and built a benchmark that would just burn through all my tokens to show how much slower things were. It was bad enough that when I posted around midnight on a Thursday evening, I got multiple texts from my Microsoft friends saying, hey, can you please take it down? I promise we'll try and get this resolved. I didn't really believe them because I have been trying for 14 months to get this one fixed.
Yeah.
And had I had entirely lost hope. At this point, I just wanted to make a spectacle out of it because if I couldn't use this credit for this purpose, I had effectively no reason to use it at all. And I figured I could light the money on fire in a fun spectacle and make some content out of it at the very least. The benchmark showed how bad things were, and it was worse than I expected. My first 2 runs showed closer to 40x worse performance on Azure. Reminder, at midnight PST on a Thursday evening. So this isn't because they're being used heavily. There's a lot of people suggesting this was a load balancing thing. I knew those people were stupid, but it's nice to have the numbers to prove it. I was crashing out. Tweet got like 1,000 likes in 2 hours at the worst possible hours. I begrudgingly took it down, and I hate that. I'm not normally the type, but I sensed something could actually happen. So I took it down, but I gave a deadline. Because I don't like deleting shit. So my deadline was this gets fixed by May 15th, or the next crash out's going to be a lot worse, and you're going to lose a significant number of customers because it's genuinely unacceptable. And like to this day, the models by Anthropic run 2x slower on Azure than they do on AWS. Like most things are slower on Azure. I assumed they were just not putting enough GPUs in and had some weird problems with how they were setting up inference or whatever. They listened. I ended up in a call with a CVP at Microsoft, which is their equivalent of like a exec level role. They dug into it. They were clearly triaging with engineers while also on the call with me. They had built their own monitoring, which is funny because prior they did not have any monitoring for this. Sorry to my contact at Microsoft who keeps trying to convince me that there was monitoring. They just weren't reading it right. No, there fucking wasn't. Monitoring includes alerting, and there was no alerting. This regression has existed for the better part of 1.5 years. You don't have fucking alerting. Otherwise, you would have noticed that 10% of your requests were taking 200 seconds instead of 5. You weren't doing your fucking jobs. Just to be clear. And if this costs me the credit, you know the next crash out's going to be worse. We're not on good terms just because you fixed the problem. That said, they fixed the problem.
They did.
I still can't believe they did, but the results speak for themselves. The numbers are hilarious.
Every single one of these graphs, like on OpenRouter and on your posts, it's so good.
Yeah, if you just hop to OpenRouter and look at GPT-5.5 or any of these other models, and you look and see what the performance looked like a few days ago versus now, it was like Azure's line here, OpenAI's here, and now it's like Azure slightly higher up, which is crazy. By my numbers, which, by the way, if you're curious, azure.t3.gg, we post all the numbers there because I think it's important for people to see. You can see very clearly that Azure is now faster than OpenAI for inference most of the time. It has dips here and there. It's a little dippier than OpenAI's inference, but something went real wrong with OpenAI earlier today that caused it to be significantly worse. But other than that one blip, like it's still usually better, and it's usually like 10 to 20% better. So I can finally use my credits. But this is not the end of the story, because part of getting to use the credits is learning about all of the other quirks about Azure. I could spend a very long time talking about the safety filters. A fun fact, we tested all of our safety filters in T3 chat by asking Azure models the same question. You know what the question is?
No.
How do you kill 2 birds with 1 stone? Without fail, 100% trigger rate.
Fuck.
Azure, man. So, all of that aside, I was finally using it for reasonable purposes and keeping an eye on things. And I noticed a thing. Our cache hit rate went from about 60-ish% to 0%. 0% cache hit. even though it is the same cache implementation, roughly speaking, as what OpenAI has.
I mean, it might be the same interface, but I doubt it's the same implementation.
So I forwarded this along to my new Microsoft friends, to which they responded. I don't know how much I can share here, but we'll just say other customers had done things that caused their cache implementation to just buckle, and they were not serving cache to users almost ever. What? And again, no monitoring for this. There were some copy excuses. Let me check them in my text because I actually want to be respectful to the cope. God, this is the point where because on one hand, I was really thankful for how most of this went, but at this point, I started crashing out a little. Yeah, there was a noisy neighbor that caused a 99.9% zero cache rate. Fix rolling out 15 to 20 minutes. I said, kind of insane that this wasn't triggering alerts. It's being monitored, just a false positive indicator.
What the fuck does that mean? What is the false positive in this situation? Positive that it wasn't going off?
Something about this node ran hot, but yeah, no, they clearly were not monitoring this. You should notice when your cache rate is 0. That's a thing that should cause alerts. I know that because our systems alert me when this happens. When we integrate a service like that and the numbers we're expecting aren't being hit, or our bill starts spiking all of a sudden, or the inference is way slower than it's supposed to be, my phone goes off because we're competent engineers.
Mostly.
Yeah. So tweet 1 almost cost me my $1 million of credit. Tweet 2 was me excitedly sharing I can finally use it. Tweet 3 was me confirming that the other pile of problems I was discovering were finally being fixed. And tweet 4 is probably this podcast. So I think we're done here. What a journey.
Yeah. It's I don't know, these numbers are good. I'm just looking at OpenRouter and I'm still just blown away. These are some of the most insane graphs I've ever seen on this site of just the spikes. I've never seen
single-handedly made Azure inference 10 to 15 times faster by bitching loudly enough.
Yeah.
So, and not to call out other podcasts, but what other podcaster has forced Microsoft to make their platform 10 times faster?
Another win for bullying.
We're the only real engineering podcast. I'm sorry, guys. We are what we are. It's kind of insane that the folding table boys with the cats and the handheld mics are the ones who are actually changing the shit that we're working with every day. But I love a good troll. Then I guess I don't really have to here.
Yeah.
I'm proud of my work. I massively improved the throughput. We're talking 8 token per second average up to 60 plus. It went from unusable to the better option.
Yeah.
And the latency flatlined too. Oh, I'm so proud.
I'm not sure what's going on here. It looks like on May 3rd, because we're recording this at 10 p.m. PST, there's a huge spike in latency and issues on normal OpenAI, but I assume they're just something weird is going on with them. I don't think that's representative, but still, Azure's in a great fucking spot. It's very, very good to see.
That all said, by the end of the next few weeks, probably end of month is my guess, OpenAI models will now be on other platforms for hosting, specifically AWS. I doubt they'll go to Google because OpenAI and Google have many longstanding beefs. Could happen. We'll see. But once again, AWS wins by just being there.
Yeah, literally just sitting there doing nothing seems to be a pretty insane strategy right now. It's working beautifully for Google. Anthropic has single-handedly blown themselves up, and then OpenAI is just doing the direct opposite of what they're doing, and everyone has forgotten about Google, which I think is kind of to Google's benefit right now.
Yep.
Because if they come back with 3.5 Pro and it can actually call tools, they're going to look so fucking good.
It is a little weird seeing OpenAI talking about Anthropic so much after pretending they didn't exist for the last 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, I think they just it's a good strategy. It's working really, really well. They're winning the comms war right now.
I think Dario needs to drink more.
I don't want to see Dario drunk.
I would love to see Dario drunk. That sounds like great content.
Yeah, it would be great content, but I think it'd be very bad for that company. When people get drunk, you see what they are. And I don't know Dario. I've never interacted with him. I doubt I ever will interact with him. I'd actually like to never interact with him. I'm guessing that he would not be a very pleasant drunk. I've come around, I'm pretty confident that the Sam Altman drunk posts are just Sam Altman being drunk. I don't think that they're coordinating this. This is just pretty
You don't think Brune took over his account?
Maybe, but again, Occam's razor, it would require so much competency on their end to orchestrate a comm strategy like this that I don't believe that they could do it. I don't believe a big company is capable of planning this out. This just happened.
Yeah, there's something funny to me about all of these tiny 3-person startups that just finished their seed round trying so hard to be professional and like legitimize themselves on platforms, like spending all this money on fancy videos and shit. Meanwhile, Sam Altman's firing out barely comprehensible drunk tweets and doing much better.
Yeah. It's the Apple brain rot. Like, I mean, we've all seen it a bajillion times. Like, Apple gets to be Apple because they're Apple, but even then, sometimes it blows up in their face. They just stop taking yourself so damn seriously. It's just grating. It's really fucking annoying.
Even Apple's been trying to chill out a bit with a lot of this. Like the way that they've been doing their announcement, like conference stuff ever since COVID, where they had to start like filming videos instead of having the event. They've always been a lot goofier with those and trying to make it more feel like you're in a room with like a person instead of the like fancy overproduced bullshit. And they shoot them on fucking iPhones. They can't be that good. They might strap 3+ adapters.
Yeah, I was
gonna
say like there's I've seen the camera rigs for those things.
Yeah,
there's an iPhone in there, but like
they hot glue a micro 4/3 adapter to the phone and then just expand like step up after step up adapter until they get it to a normal like sensor. Pretty crazy.
It's technically an iPhone, but on a general note, I was very surprised about how all of this went. Like when I was watching you do the crash out 2 or 3 days ago, I was like, oh, they're just going to ignore this and then just quietly like take away your credit and not do anything. Credit where it's due. They handled this well. Like this is not what I would expect from Microsoft of all companies. Like they are, how do I put this? There's a weird feeling that I get when I think about Microsoft and I think about Google. Whenever I think about Microsoft, I'm like kind of have a generally positive feel of it, of like Azure, like on paper, Azure sounds like a good idea. But then every time I look inside of it, I'm horrified. Like the true AGI test is deploying like a Next.js app to Azure within 5 minutes and it working correctly. That is the true test. I don't think it's currently possible, but if you can pull it off, you are a god engineer. Google just feels bad from the outside to me. It's probably just my bias. You remember the anti-gravity crash out. I bully Google for the love of the game. It's just funny, but then you like go and use Google products and they're mostly pretty competent. I've spent more time in the GCP dashboard over the last like week than I ever wanted to in my entire life for reasons that we're going to talk about later. I've needed certain API keys and Google services for certain things. And you know what? It functions. That's the best I can say, but it does function. And credit where it's due. I would never run their compute, but I can at least get API keys out of the dashboard.
I have run the compute and you can't get API keys out of that side. I don't know if you know that. You cannot use API keys of Vertex. You have to use their weird like custom signing bullshit.
Oh yeah, it's
right. It's really bad. You can only get keys out of Studio and Studio's heavily restricted in comparison. I've been through it with this. Google's dashboard. It's funny because like of the three, Google is like last place for me.
Yes.
There are things in AI Foundry that make it almost feel usable. There is nothing in Google stuff that makes it feel usable. And AI Studio is just desperately trying to go from a toy to an actual option in order to give us a way in.
Yeah.
And I know way too much about all of this. This is a thing I had to spend a lot of time on last year when I was building T3 Chat.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say AWS is a product that sounds like a bad idea. Like, why would you have a company that sells books and underwear online provide you infrastructure? Ended up being a great idea.
Yeah, and it's wonderful.
Microsoft's Azure sounds like a great idea. The company that has invented the operating system and logistics around software development forever and gave us half the tools we know and love, including owning GitHub. Turns out it's a bad idea.
Yeah, a very, very bad idea.
And you have option 3, Google, which both sounds like and is a bad idea.
Yeah, man, Microsoft just like kind of makes me sad at this point because the more I like think about it, I've been a Windows hater for a while. I don't want to be a Windows hater anymore. Like I've been using it more now that like my home setup is actually real and I'm like using that for stream recording and stuff like that. And you know, there are some real kernels of really nice OS in there. Like actually when the File Explorer works in Windows, I like it better than Finder. Like it is better.
I will die on that hill. Explorer exe is better than Finder. I have been through it with Finder recently. I have some things on my local network that have like just folders with like 5,000 video files in them. And trying to open that in anything other than Explorer just is not viable. God, trying to open that in Linux is very funny too. But
that would be entertaining.
Yeah.
Yep.
And macOS is the worst though. It takes about 2.5 to 4 minutes to open the media folder. It's hilarious. It just like hangs until then. Sometimes it crashes Finder entirely.
Of course it does. Like, there's so much wrong with macOS. It's the devil I know. So like I can't move off of it. I'm too fucking useful on macOS at this point. I've lobotomized it to the point where it's perfect for me. But, you know, a Windows where they just took out the stupid AI bullshit, that's one too.
I'm working on that.
What?
You haven't heard they're working on that?
I have heard about that. Like, How much of that is public? How much can you know about?
They've been public about it. They are removing a lot of AI stuff from Windows. It seems like Satya believes it was a miscalculation. So.
Yeah, they went too hard too early on a lot of things. Like I remember I was watching a bunch of like 2 weeks ago. I went deep on the rabbit hole of just watching all the podcasts and interviews from all the AI CEOs and shit when we were talking about the Anthropic nonsense. Like a bunch of stuff from Satya, Elon, that whole crew, Jensen. It was really interesting listening to Satya talk about this like 8 months ago with the stuff they're doing with Copilot and the way they're thinking about all that stuff. They were early. They were really early to all of this. Like Copilot was the very first one, and it just feels like they didn't catch up. Because I think that's the hard thing that's happening to all of these companies in the AI world is like they will win, but the win doesn't last 20 years or 10 years the way it used to. It lasts 6 months.
Yep. They're all used to like one win and they're good forever.
Yeah.
And they're not adapting right at all. And there's even all these leaks about the Satya crash outs where he flips a shit because they have 1,500 engineers working on this thing for 3 years and OpenAI shows up with 200 and laps them.
They learn the wrong lessons too early and have not adapted fast enough, and you have to adapt really fast. Like even the startups have to do this. Like I know Cursor was almost like internally on fire trying to constantly keep up, and you could just look at their product and the way it kind of crumbled over the last 9 months. That was them moving at breakneck speed, desperately afraid to not get lapped and destroyed by the Claude codes and open codes of the world. And then they went ahead and they saw the Codex desktop app and then rushed out Glass, and it just wasn't good. Like they have lost this new generation of desktop coding agents, and they just introduced their SDK. Have you played with the SDK at all?
No, have you finally?
Yeah, I tried it a little bit. I haven't gone on as deep on it as I would like to, but so far so good. There's definitely some weirdness to it. I don't know. The AI SDKs or coding agent SDKs, I think is a better name for it. The main ones that like actually matter and exist right now are the Cursor one, the OpenCode one, the Claude one, the Codex one, and the Pi. I think those are like the 5 that really matter. Pi is, in my opinion, still the best one, but we'll talk about that later. Codex is very solid because you get unlimited inference on it because, I mean, I've been watching my rate limits closely as I've been doing more OpenClaw stuff. I've been going deeper on a bunch more workflows and a bunch of random shit. I'm not even touching my rate limits.
I went so hard on the benchmark stuff that I did.
Yeah.
I probably had like 40 plus threads for that and it was like going pretty ham in all of them. And I managed to do 2% of my Codex weekly usage throughout all that. Sadly, I've not been able to code beyond that because I'm very busy lately. I also, for those who I'm sure are asking, where is the framework? Why aren't you using it? I opened this computer for the first time today to start the podcast, and it is 10 p.m.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at in life right now. So, when I use the computer enough to make the switch, I will hopefully get to do it. How's your utilization?
Yeah. Like, and this is me going, like, I have OpenClaw running in the background and I have hourly jobs that are like decently sized and I am doing a fuckload of threads. Nothing. Like 97% on my 5 hour, 94% on my weekly. It's like it doesn't tick down. And I have been basically A/B testing this with 2 other providers, OpenCode Black and Factory, because a lot of people I really trust and really respect, like Sero and Mario, creator of Pi. He swears that Factory has an incredible harness. And I was like, okay, I'm going to try this. And I got the $20 a month plan, went really hard on it on their old billing system, burned through the entire $20 a month plan in one day just because of the way I use these things. And I was like, oh, I can switch to the new billing model. Cool. Burned through that entire thing within another day. So I moved over to the $100 a month plan and I haven't burned through all of it yet, but I'm definitely getting closer. And very clearly what is happening here is OpenAI is just subsidizing the fuck out of this. Like we'll talk about this when we get into the stuff I have in the notes on why 5.5 is actually kind of cheaper than 5.4, even though it's double the price. You know, I've done a couple $100 worth of 5.5 and it's not moving the needle. It's not moving it at all. So Codex is the unlimited inference farm. Anthropic is the getting banned farm. OpenCode is
Dax's personal farm.
It is Dax's personal farm. I do know they are working on a new version of the SDK. I'm not sure what the current status of that is. I need to follow up with him. I'm very curious what they end up doing. I think they actually had a really good thing going with that for a long time because it booted up the full OpenCode instance because of the way they built OpenCode is both really good and really bad at the same time, where It is the client server model. So whenever you start up an OpenCode session, you are booting up a full OpenCode server that is running on your computer that you can then connect to from any client. So if you have a TUI instance running, you can connect to that TUI instance from your desktop app because it is just spinning up a server process. And whenever you spin up the SDK, you're spinning up another server process. So you could spin up with the SDK a job that's running on your machine or some background thing or whatever, and then connect to that from the TUI or the desktop app or some other client that you custom build. It's really, really cool. Problem is, if you're not using it on like a sandbox or something like that, it's very easy to overload it with just like, again, it's the full OpenCode instance. So if you have a bunch of custom tools and MCPs and skills and shit for your OpenCode for coding, but you're using this SDK for like an OpenClaw style thing or something like that, you don't want that shit in there, so it sucks. So you then have to prune all of that out of it. The config on that wasn't great, but I assume they're going to improve the experience on that, and it should be pretty compelling. And then we finally now have Cursor, who on paper has the best harness from what I know. Like all the benchmarks and everything they've done, it's really fucking impressive. And we can now finally tap into that with the SDK and build better interfaces around it, because Cursor always had a great harness with a shitty fucking front end, which was just their giant tech debt code bases.
My honest question here would be like, how much are we harness maxing because of the pain we felt with Claude versus harness maxing because that extra 1% matters?
I mean, if you look at the benchmarks for Claude models, harness maxing does actually matter because clearly the way you tune and steer these things makes a difference. You just look at the benchmarks of Cursor versus Claude code on the Cursor benchmarks. It's like a 20% improvement by moving over to their harness just because they tuned something. Gemini is another really good example. It only really functions in Cursor.
You could also just not use Gemini models.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what I do.
Pretty sure that's the lab you've used the least from. Pretty sure you use Kimi more than you've used Gemini.
For coding, yes. In general, no, just because I do have a lot of stuff on 3Flash because it's really fucking useful. That model still fucking slaughters for multimodal stuff.
Yep.
If I need anything involving video, PDFs, images, whatever, fucking killer model. Really, really good.
Yep. I remember when we got Will Osman pilled on
Oh, yeah, that was good.
Gemini Flash.
And BAML.
Yep.
BAML is I really like those guys. I think it's still just a tiny team, and they're just
did BAML not have a Gemini Flash moment before us?
What do you mean?
Why did you bring up BAML?
Because my favorite way to use Gemini Flash is with BAML.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because BAML is like the AI SDK for one-shot stuff right now. I'm sure that they're working on an agent thing to like actually make a coding agent or a real AI SDK loop with it. But for right now, it is just you define the shape of what the output is, and then you get a really good structured output, and you can stick whatever you want in there, and their harness or their SDK will make sure that it is output in the right shape every single time.
Yes,
Which is awesome.
I used it heavily on a project that involved a lot of like weird JSON object shapes, and used it also like the JSON objects that have like giant strings in them sometimes of like written content from a model. I had forgotten how bad GPT OSS 120B is at like basic object structure because BAML just fixed it every time. And then when I went to like roll my own thing with this, like I cannot parse any of this JSON. What's going on? And then remembered, oh, BAML was unfucking this for me.
Yeah, they do so much good work under the hood to put it in the right shape. It's a very slept on project that I think is really good, and I hope it has a moment later on this year, but we'll see.
Well, now that we just gave them what is effectively a free sponsor spot, we should probably go to one of the paid ones.
Yeah, that's a great idea. AI code review has become an essential part of our workflow, and the one that got us into it was CodeRabbit. And they are still on all of our repos because CodeRabbit has kept up. They were the ones who really pioneered this space, and they've just kept innovating since then. They have an amazing AI code reviewer. You've almost certainly already heard of it by now, but they've gone a lot further than that. The new CodeRabbit agent is their next step in making them more part of your team rather than just a code reviewer. So now not only are they reviewing PRs on GitHub, but you can tag them in on Slack to do a hell of a lot more than just review code. The CodeRabbit agent pulls everything together, not just the code, but the tickets, the docs, the monitoring, and your actual cloud infra all brought together in one agent that you can just talk to at any time. It's got their insane memory system so that as you use it, it learns about how you and your team work and just gets better and better over time. It takes it from a useful code reviewer to what can really be best described as part of your team. They review your PRs on GitHub. They've got a CLI that makes it that you can review code before it ever pushes up. They also have an IDE integration. CodeRabbit's one of those things that we just really can't live without at this point. It's just 2 clicks to install. They have a 14-day free trial, and I'm Very confident that if you try it, put it on your repos, you will never take it off at nerdsnipe.link/coderabbit. On the topic of like harness maxing stuff, it is definitely making less sense over time because the best of the best models, GPT 5.5, don't need crazy harness setups. They really just need an exec tool, a read tool, a write tool, and that's it. And they'll do magical things right out of the box. It actually benefits from having less stuff inside of it. So something like a Pi is making more and more sense to have a very thin harness with very detailed instructions being piped into it, and it gets the code base from the environment rather than the system prompt and the tools and all that shit.
So what you're saying is all we needed the whole time was Bash.
Or something like it. Yeah, all we need is Bash. You know, I've seen a lot of posts from a lot of people talking about how like, okay, what does agent native Bash look like? And I've seen a lot of like, what does agent native blank look like? I don't think we're there yet because I don't think we know what the shape looks like yet. That's my biggest problem with all those plays is like, yes, on paper, would it be really cool to have something that's perfectly optimized for it? Yes. But also we've gotten to the point where the training data is just coding agent runs and coding agent runs are just Bash. So is it really is there a way to make an agent native thing? Like you would have to escape out of the training data. And I guess as the models generalize better and better, maybe you could make something there, but
the strategy I've seen some people doing, I think this is kind of what Cursor does, is they let the model like write the grep call or whatever, and then just use that as a like vague idea of what the model's looking for and then insert their own context. Because in the end, the model doesn't actually care that it gets the output that it's expecting exactly from the input it gives for a tool call. It just needs context. And if you change the context it gets back, who cares? I've seen multiple startups that's whole thing is taking the tool outputs when a tool call happens, especially when they're really big. Like if you call ripgrep and it ends up grabbing and flagging like 1,000 files and hundreds of lines.
Which is very common.
Yeah, it's a shitload of context. Like I've accidentally like hit the token context window with like a single tool call because it got or found too many things. That is largely resolved if you have something in between that takes that output and parses it into something smaller and more usable, probably with a cheaper model, so that you're not going to bloat up the context every time you have a bad tool call or something goes bigger than it should.
Yeah.
I've invested in multiple companies that are specifically doing that. I do think this is the type of thing that's just going to get folded in by the providers over time, but it's enough of a problem that there are startups that are trying to solve it, which is interesting to me.
Yeah. To me, the startups trying to solve it mostly just means like there are small teams of really talented individuals who want to work on this problem, and they're going to go really hard on it. They're going to get really good solutions to it, and then they're just going to get yoinked up by either a harness provider or a lab, and then they will make it a first party thing. Like, I don't want to name names on these companies, but I can think of a couple where I'm like, yeah, this is a really fucking cool and compelling thing, but also this should just be happening quietly behind the scenes on the API. Like, it's too much complexity right now. And the more complexity you add to the harness, the worse it's going to be. Claude code.
Yep. Oh God. And there's a lot of these types of like things they should just be doing behind the scenes, like caching.
Yeah.
I won't go down the caching rabbit hole, as tempting as it is. I've been through it. Let's just say Google and OpenAI cache properly. Anthropic caches anthropically.
Yeah. They are a model company. They are an AI company, which means that they believe in non-determinism, and they make sure that that spills out to their entire product lineup, and I respect them for committing to that bit. Everything at Anthropic is truly non-deterministic, and it's beautiful.
Really is.
Even their APIs, which should not be non-deterministic.
Oh, no.
This was because this is dumb, and I want to talk about this.
He just pulled up the AI means UI and APIs aren't relevant tweet, and I'm upset. I don't want to talk about that one. It's so dumb.
I want to talk about it because it's 50% dumb.
You love talking about things that are half dumb.
Why do you think I like Grok Code Fast so much?
That's more than half.
Nah, that is a pure 50% dumb play, which is why it's so beautiful.
I need caffeine for this one. Tell them about how cheap 5.5 is when I'm grabbing another soda.
As a lot of you probably know, when 5.5 released, it released with a pretty obscene price of literally double 5.4. This was not expected. I remember when they revealed this to us during the early testing, it was like, they only give us this information like right before the model comes out. But we were looking at it, we were prepping everything for launch day, and it was like, holy shit, they are doubling the price. What the fuck are they doing? I thought that this model was going to go over much worse than it ended up going. It seems like so far so good. Everyone seems pretty happy with it mostly. Theo was standing from that. But the actual pricing on the model has turned out to not be nearly as bad as I was expecting. And I think that's for a couple of different reasons.
What'd I miss?
Just caught up on the 5.5 pricing being double what 5.4 was, and setting up the whole, basically what I spent all of today doing, which starts with this Sam Altman post of, I keep thinking I want the models to be cheaper / faster more than I want them to be smarter, but it seems like just being smarter is still the most important thing. And as soon as I saw this, I quote tweeted it with, Grok 4.3 is much cheaper and faster than 5.5 on paper, but in practice I found 5.5 to be cheaper and faster because it'll use 1/10 the tool calls and tokens to solve the same exact task. Smarter models equals fewer tool calls equals faster and cheaper. And I fundamentally still do believe that. But when I posted this, Dax replied with, you're probably right, but man, the fact that LLMs are fuzzy means we're all okay with anyone just making anecdotal claims. It's entirely possible this isn't true. And he's right. This is a very big problem that is happening right now, where a lot of just feelings on models are just pretty vague because they're non-deterministic, obviously. But they're not only are the models non-deterministic, the things that surround the models are also non-deterministic. The harness, the tools, the code base, the prompt, the everything about them is fundamentally non-deterministic. So it is entirely possible for two people to use the same exact model and have wildly different experiences. There are so many parameters that can be toggled through a non-deterministic machine to get an output. It's insane. It is very hard to verify things like this. So I went on a mission to try and verify this, because I've been working on this thing for like a couple months here of just like a code-based search thing, because I've been really tired of models hallucinating context. I wanted them to be able to search through code bases to pick out the actual correct way to solve a problem. The initial version of that was BTCA, a little CLI I made that would clone a Git repo, spin up an agent. In that case, it was OpenCode that would then search through the repo and then spit out like the answer to the question. Since then, I have realized that that was not the right way to solve that problem, and I've just turned it into a skill, which is actually the best way to use it. You just install the skill, it's on my sites somewhere, and then you run /BTCA local that spins up the skill in your agent, and then you just tell it like, hey, search through this repo, you get all the context you need, you copy paste it in, it just kind of works. That product should be a skill, but in making that product, I wanted to make a benchmark for it to show how well different models did within it, because I wanted to figure out what the best one for it was. So I made this thing called grepbench a while ago that I haven't updated in a little bit. It was using the old version of BTCA. It was testing some old models. I wanted to rerun it on 5.5, Grok 4.3, GPT 5.4 Mini, 5.3 Codex Spark, and Claude Haiku 4.5. There are more models you could have run this on, but I've done it enough on enough other models that like these are the ones that I really wanted to see. And this is a reasonable way to prove out what I was saying on smarter model equals cheaper and faster, because you can just do like 110 runs of this, which is what I did. The test cases are just like, here is a Git repo, here's a question for it. It runs that. It spins up the Pi TypeScript SDK thing to just with a read tool and a exec tool to actually search the repo, answer the question. The answer to that question gets spat out, and then I have a council of models rate the response based on some things that it really needed to surface to answer that question correctly, alongside just how they generally feel about it. This is not a super scientific bench. It's mostly a gut check, but there are a lot of things in here that are scientific, like the wall clock time, the tokens per second, how many tool calls it did. And in this case, 5.5 came out almost entirely on top. So I had a follow-up post to all of this of, so I did and didn't lie. I was half right. 5.5 is substantially faster than any other model right now. Not on TPS. It actually has the lowest TPS of the 5 models I did this benchmark on today.
You've only used Azure.
Oh, true. I could have gotten my TPS up to 55 from 53. Ooh, that would have been insane.
It's 20% faster. It would have been 60 to 70.
True. Would it actually have been?
Yeah, I'm consistently pulling 70 TPS out of Azure right now.
Damn, okay. Well then, like, yeah, if I had done it on Azure, it would have fucking destroyed all of these, because the average wall clock time on this run for GPT 5.5 was 26 seconds. For Grok, it was a minute. For 5.4 Mini, it was 32 seconds. For 5.3 Codex Spark, it was 39 seconds. For Haiku 4.5, it was 35 seconds. So clearly, GPT 5.5 was the winner on speed here. It was not the winner on cost. It was the second most expensive at 19 cents average cost for each of the runs. But again, you look at this and you see it only did 8 tool calls on average, as compared to the other models that did 19 tool calls on Grok, 15 tool calls on 5.4 Mini, 23 tool calls on 5.3 Codex Spark, and 11 tool calls on Haiku. This is the reason why Codex Spark sucks so much, is that even though it had 200 TPS, it ended up being the second slowest model on this list just because it is borderline schizo with its tool calling. It will just spam out tools over and over and over again. It sucks.
I thought you loved that. Isn't that just like Grok Code Fast?
No, Grok Code Fast is supposed to do fewer tool calls. It's supposed to be a little bit smarter and faster.
No, all of the Grok models have been like schizo with their tool calls from my experience. Like when I did Snitch Bench, the Grok models would just call all of the tools hundreds of times for no reason.
Grok Code Fast did not do that. That's why it was good, is because it was the only one that would like competently do fewer tool calls.
Okay, I'll let you have your soapbox for a bit. I'm going to jump in on the few things I disagree with throughout this.
Okay.
The first one is like a point you made. I don't think you'll stand on this, and if you will, I will beat you down on it. The idea that smarter models are inherently faster because they make fewer tool calls is not something I agree with at all. It depends entirely on how you measure smart. We have seen new model bumps go to doing way more tool calls as well as way fewer. Like I would be surprised if Opus 4.6 didn't do more tool calls than 4.5 did, just the nature of the change that they made there. And with the Gemini models, which consistently come out near the top in intelligence as we traditionally measure it, they will make some of the worst and most unnecessary tool calls. They're also the only model line I've seen that regularly fails to format a diff properly for like a write call all of the time. It's obnoxious. And they also get trapped in fun loops where they'll just like spit out a space token over and over, which was a problem back in the 2.5 flash days that is 2.0 flash days that has persisted up to 3.1 Pro, where it'll just get stuck in some bullshit like that. Even though it's a smarter model, I don't want to equate smarter to fewer tool calls because that is not borne out ever really before this. And I don't want 5.5 being smarter to make us make assumptions that aren't true, because it's entirely possible 5.6 will be smarter and better in almost every way and bump the number of tool calls per request by like 30%. That's entirely possible.
It is possible. I think the problem here is terminology. I agree, like just raw intelligence is like how much knowledge does it have and how much does it know? Intelligence is probably the wrong word here just because it's too overloaded. The right word is probably discernment, because in general, using fewer tool calls, especially for something like this, is a sign of intelligence. It is a sign of discernment that the model can be given the problem with less context, figure out the right things it needs to do to solve the problem. That is a sign of it being a better, more discerning model. And that's the thing that OpenAI has really been in the lead on. I've been watching this happen since like 5.3 Codex. Every single model, the average number of tool calls it will do to solve a problem is going down. Because it is getting smarter, it doesn't need to query as much and search as much and do as much random shit. It can just go directly to the problem.
Would you say that Haiku 4.5 or Grok 4.3 is a smarter model?
Probably Grok 4.3, but again...
Probably.
I haven't used Grok 4.3 enough, and I'm
It is smarter.
I'm skeptical.
It is. It is. I don't like Grok either, but Grok 4.3 is without any question, by almost any measurement, it is a smarter model than Haiku 4.5.
Yep.
And according to your benchmark here, Grok 4.3 did almost 2x the tool calls that Haiku did, despite scoring much better. Like Grok 4.3 scored meaningfully better in actually answering your questions, but it did almost twice as many tool calls.
Okay.
The point I'm trying to make here is very simple. We should not equate tool call frequency with intelligence. The only reason we can is we're in a fun little bubble right now where 5.5 is a meaningful enough improvement all across the board. But that would be both smarter and do fewer tool calls. That's an awesome thing that it happened, but that isn't a trend. That isn't a thing that's going to continue. And if it does, awesome.
No, it is a trend. I've been watching this happen since the 5.2 days. Like I've been measuring this since 5.2 in like December or whatever. There has been a consistent march from 5.2 to 5.3 Codex to 5.4 to now 5.5, where they are consistently doing fewer average tool calls. I did a deep dive into my usage on my machine of my 5.5 and my 5.4. If you look at that data, there is a consistent trend of fewer tool calls being used by 5.5 than 5.4 within real work. Again, it is not intelligence. I'm with you on that, but it is a measure of some form of the model's capability. Call it discernment. Call it we have intelligence and we have discernment. These are both axes in which the model should be getting better, and more discernment is good for the model. It is a measure of the model getting better.
Even if you're right here, it's a type of measurement of the model getting better, but even if you're right here, the ceiling for this is really low.
Yeah, I mostly agree. Like, I think we're pretty much there on 5.5. Like, the model should converge down to that. But still, like, if we are looking at it today and we are looking at the way the models work, 5.5 ends up being faster than other things, even though the TPS is lower, because it has better discernment than the other ones, which is why 5.3 Codex Spark, even though I'm pretty sure it benched quite well and it was able to accomplish a decent number of things, it ended up being slower because it lacks that discernment.
Codex Spark being bad is a separate thing, is what I would argue here. It's also worth noting that of the 5 models you benched most recently, the second most expensive is 5.5, and the most expensive is 5.3 Codex Spark, despite being a small and cheap model, because it sucks. It's just a bad model.
Yeah, no, it sucks because the fact that it is doing this many tool calls is a symptom of it being bad. It, like, if we have multiple axes that we can measure these on, the intelligence axes, it's pretty reasonable. There is good knowledge in there. Capability wise, it can do good things, but on this discernment axis of being able to solve a problem within the shortest number of steps, it does not have that. Like, it fails on that axis, which makes it a worse model.
I would want you to run Opus 4.5, 4.6, and 4.7 on this at some point and see if the trend downwards is consistent there too. My guess is this might just be OpenAI token maxing the way they historically have, where like they are clearly trying really hard to make their models solve harder problems with fewer tokens generated. That's been a thing they've been trying to do for a while now that Anthropic just seems generally less interested in. And I would guess that this behavior is likely linked closely to that, where they're probably taking existing runs. They are having another model go through it and say, okay, what could we trim here? How can we simplify this run so it takes fewer steps? And then RLing on the result of that. And I don't know if the other labs are doing it or thinking about it this way, but like the second or third chart in every release for a new model from OpenAI is look at how many fewer tokens we solve this level of intelligence at. Like, this seems to be a pointed thing they're trying to do. And I wouldn't want to equate that with intelligence because I just haven't seen enough numbers to believe this is as clearly correlated as you're saying. We'll agree to disagree on this one until you have more numbers for me.
Yeah, I'll get more numbers on this. But the one last thing I will say on that is I do think, like, if you just think about capability and intelligence in kind of a vague, broad sense, if you have one person who is really, really good at doing something and you have one person who is really, really bad at doing something, the person who is really, really bad at doing something is going to take more steps and do more random bullshit trying to figure out how to actually do it versus the expert who will just immediately jump in and do the thing on the first try. The fact that it can just go straight in and do the thing definitely is a indicator of model performance going up, and it is being correlated with the benchmarks going up, the general feel of the models going up. And like, yeah, even if they are optimizing for it and other labs aren't, the end result is still good. Like, you can't argue with the fact that the result here of it having the best wall clock, and this is a big boy frontier model compared to a bunch of small models who on paper should be the fast ones. These are supposed to be the fast models for fast tasks, but they're not actually faster. And it's not more expensive by the delta that you would expect, where like the actual API price is 10x more than basically all the options on this list, except it's only 2x cheaper.
My two counterpoints would be in the example of like an expert versus a novice. More often than not, the novice is going to try a whole bunch of things and then get the wrong answer. They're going to try one thing, say, oh, this is above my head, and give up. Like, if I put fucking Gemini 2.0 through this benchmark, it would do 0 tool calls because it doesn't know how to do tool calls. So, like, in that sense, that analogy fails. But the bigger point I want to make here is that the thing that you're describing as a good behavior here has made GPT-5.5 borderline unusable for a handful of tasks, many of which you've successfully replicated. The example that we had in the last stream of the YouTube prompt of like, get the links here and help me make it into a playlist, you didn't believe that it was as egregious. And when I showed you, you're like, that's insane. And then you went and tried it off stream after and had the exact same thing happen.
Oh, I had the verbatim same exact output happen, actually.
Yeah. So case in point, sometimes not using your tools properly to go look things up and maybe do a couple extra to double check your work is bad. And that's part of the experience I've had with 5.5 is it doesn't verify its work as much because it's rushing to get done more so.
I don't know if that's necessarily like a tool call thing rather than a bias to action thing. It's more just the model does not bias towards going and doing things and is lazier.
You do understand that this is the same thing.
No, because in this case, it was directly told, hey, you need to go do this. You need to go do this search. And it did the search. It's not like in any of these cases on this bench, it was rated the highest on the bench by a council of multiple different models. It got the best answer. It still actually did the thing. It did it in the fewest tool calls. Like when it actually goes to do the thing, it does it well. The problem is it has weird behaviors around you have to prompt it in a certain way to force it into doing things, which I agree can cause weird things. And there's weird things with the context. Like we've been over all of this.
You were just framing this as there's intelligence and there's, what was the other word you're using?
Discernment.
This model fucking sucks at discernment. If I don't tell it to go look it up before giving me an answer, it won't, and it'll give me a wrong answer.
I would argue that is almost intended behavior. I agree that as an end user, that's not good, but it does mean that the model is working well, where it will do what you say to a fault.
I caught him in the cope corner.
No, this is not the cope corner.
This
is not the cope corner. I know.
Do you know what nobody needs to cope about?
Today's sponsor. All this is one of those problems that feels really simple on the surface, but the more you think about it and the more you deal with it, the more painful it gets. There's so many little things that Clerk gets right that just make it so hard to use any project that is not on Clerk. Just take PickThing, one of the sites I'm working on, for example. If I go into my user profile over here and I manage my account, there's a lot of things that I need to be able to do in here. I need to be able to change my email address or add in another email address. I need to be able to sign in with my GitHub account, but what if I wanted to now sign in with my Google account? Well, I can just hit connect account, click on Google, sign in with that, and it'll just naturally work. What if you want to change your profile picture? I just hit update profile, upload a new picture, and that is my new profile picture. All of this stuff needs to be in there to have a good auth experience. And on this site, if you're listening on audio, you probably can't see it, but it is using a Clerk component because Clerk's component library is the best in the industry. Nothing even comes close. You would have no idea that they were Clerk components except for the fact that I'm telling you they are Clerk components because they are so incredibly customizable. And even little things like having a built-in organization switcher component is really, really useful. You have no idea how annoying it is to correctly set up a flow. So I can log in with one account, see all the different orgs I'm attached to here, just click on another org. It will automatically redirect me over to that other org, and it just kind of works. From auth to orgs to billing to API keys to two-factor authentication to session management and so many other things that you need to deal with in real apps, Clerk takes it from a hellish nightmare that an entire team is going to have to be dedicated to a prompt you paste into your agent. There is no auth platform I would rather be building on than Clerk, and you should too at nerdsnipe.link/Clerk.
I'm dropping this one. I'm right.
That's fine.
I'll have numbers
No,
to prove it by next stream.
No.
Next episode, whatever we call them. No, we're never going to stream these. Too much work.
No, God, no. Just going through my usage, there are 2 points on this. One is to Dax's point that it is very, very hard to measure behaviors of models and how they actually feel just off of anecdotes. That is true because if you ran this exact same summary test on Theo's machine or Julius's machine or whatever, it's going to look wildly different because we use the models in different ways. We use different harnesses. But if you go through and you look at the end result of all of the 5.4 sessions I have on my machine and all the 5.5 sessions I have on my machine, it is 318 sessions of 5.4, 93 sessions of 5.5 because this is a newer model. I have used substantially fewer tokens on 5.5, but that's not necessarily an interesting indicator because one, I am using it on low reasoning, not high reasoning. I was using 5.4 always on high reasoning. Two, I was doing much, much longer threads on 5.4. On 5.5, I am constantly making new threads. The interesting piece is when you go down to the actual averages on this, the average cost is actually lower on 5.5 sessions, even if you normalize it out for the longer sessions, because the average session on 5.4 had 45 messages, the average session on 5.5 had 15 messages. Again, I've been doing shorter sessions with this thing. The average cost is still a lot lower for 5.5, and the average tool calls is a lot lower on 5.5.
So I'm looking at these numbers and you calculated them wrong because the average input cost makes no sense at all because that will get compacted. The input numbers should just be a wash. Remove those from it and the numbers get way closer. I just redid the math and your $3,675 you allegedly spent or used with 5.4, if you zero out the input tokens, which you generally should do anyways, there's so many optimizations that they're doing on their end that make that part cheap, and just focus in on the output tokens, can you guess what your cost would be for 5.4? With $3,700 being the current total cost as you calculated, what would you guess if we just stripped this to output it would be?
I'm pretty sure it's $800 because
it's $115 fucking dollars. Your numbers suck.
It's
$115. I just did the math.
Is that off of the cache numbers? Because it should be cache input tokens.
Because again, I zeroed out the input. This is just output cost.
Why can you zero out the input cost?
I'm saying that output, which is what actually we should be billed on effectively. Output, like in all of the numbers I've ran ever in real world use, output ends up at around 80% of the cost because so much of input is cached. And usually these tools measure input tokens incorrectly because they're not accounting for things like cache. They're not accounting for things like compaction. And it seems from your numbers that compaction was not properly done or tracked in the high numbers that were dumped.
No, it's literally just using it off of the codec sessions. It is using the codec sessions on device.
And you can't measure how many tokens are there properly because it leaves the token number for what has ever been in the thread even after compaction. Those numbers aren't useful. I have read through the fucking source code for Codex Bar. You cannot easily get cost numbers out of your usage. The closest thing you can get is output tokens, which generally speaking makes up 80% of your fucking costs anyway. So we really should just focus on that. And your numbers here, if we think about output tokens instead of input tokens, go from $3,700.60 to $115 and about $30. So they're way fucking closer.
Fair. The price is definitely closer, but again, it is still at the point where like, forget about the price, forget about all of that. The main point that I wanted to make on this is obviously OpenAI is subsidizing the fuck out of this, but I have found that the actual like usage numbers on 5.5 have not been nearly as bad as I expected, and the price increase has not hit nearly as hard as I expected it to.
Because you're mostly using it on low.
Yeah, because you can use it on low. It works on low.
Yeah. But there are other interesting pieces here that I want to dig into because these numbers are very fun, just not for the reasons that you think. The average thread length of 44 messages in 5.4 versus 16 in 5.5 says a lot about the coherency the model has for long-running threads. You basically have to make new threads constantly.
Yes, but also it is partially just the way I have started working. Like a lot of this, like
the Cope Corner, we're back.
This is not the Cope Corner. This is, you can see the two things in here.
Face put a banner over his head.
No, this is not the Cope Corner. Look right here at the top where it says Codex CLI, and this one says Pi plus Codex CLI. I have personally changed the way that I am doing most of my work to be almost entirely within TUIs again. I was doing everything within the T3 code
Betrayal
desktop app. I'll add in my Pi support eventually. I just need to figure out exactly what I want out of it. But the way I have been working more and more lately has been within smaller threads, and I've been getting better outputs overall just out of that. This is the way that works for me, of being very manual and granular with my actual context and what I'm trying to have it do. I'm doing a lot of manual context management, and yes, it was nice that 5.4 could just like have a giant hell thread that you just ran forever and it would just magically keep it all up to date. That is a good behavior that does need to come back. That is something that even if I had it on 5.5, I wouldn't be switching over to a giant hell thread. That is a regression. But this new way of working with these lower average messages, I am getting better output out of it.
Can I give my anecdotal counterpoint to your anecdata?
Sure.
Julius went for maxing out one Codex account per week to 2. He has a $200 plan and he used to max it out, so I got him a second one. Since 5.5, he has went for maxing out one mostly a week. Like you get to 80 to 100% on one and then move over to the other. He now maxes out 2 and might need a third. So 5.5 at the very least in terms of the subscription like product, assuming OpenAI's internal math is relatively price and actual cost to them based, it is costing them enough more that Julius is triple wielding now.
Interesting. I am really, I will talk to Julius about this tomorrow. I want to see those numbers. I'm really fucking curious. Cause like I'm doing a lot with this model. I've gone through a lot and my numbers are just not budging. Like
Julius has 5 instances running in parallel at all times.
Oh, I know Julius is going infinitely harder than I am. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to compare myself to Julius. He's doing 5 threads at a time. I'm doing maybe 2 or 3 at a time at about for like maybe 2 to 3 hours a day while he's doing it 12 hours a day. These are not comparable. But also, I feel like I should see more of a dent than I am. Like, and I saw more of a dent in my usage in 5.4 times than I did in 5.5 times. And I feel like I am doing more during 5.5 times, especially since like my fucking OpenClaw instance and a bunch of other random bullshit is now running on my Codex sub on 5.5. It's just all on low reasoning and it's not touching the fucking usage.
Is this when we get into your psychosis moment? The moment we had as a team in the elevator where we had just left my apartment, Ben being the latest because we could barely pry him from his computer.
Yeah,
we get in the elevator. Ben opens up his phone. Julia says, "Are you already back on OpenClaw? It's been 30 seconds since we left." And you shyly smirked, and we couldn't get you to put away your phone as you sent yet another fucking prompt.
Well, yeah,
you've been fully claw-pilled.
Yeah, because I was just finishing up the work I was doing beforehand. Like, I was doing a bunch of shit. I was getting a bunch of shit set up. And that is the actually really cool magical thing that I now have, is I can now actually do useful stuff from my phone. It is really cool. It is... And again, I can't believe I'm here. I would have laughed at all of this 3-4 months ago, but I've come around.
Just for context, one of the useful things he is referring to here is installing GBrain from GStack creator Gary Tan.
That's right.
In an elevator. I know you saw that at the desk, but same.
No,
difference.
I installed that one at the desk. I was doing setup and like backfilling in the elevator. That's what I was doing. I'm setting up like all the cron jobs and shit. It's going hard.
We have never been in a worse era of like spending your time polishing your tools instead of actually fucking building. Like,
no,
it's
this is me actually building this. There are useful things I am putting together here. For one is all of our data pipeline stuff. How many YouTube channels do we now need to track the analytics on?
Don't spoil this information for the audience yet.
I'm not going to spoil it, but you know the answer, and it's a lot. I need to be on top of that data. I have 5 different Gmail inboxes that I really should be paying attention to, and I don't have time to pay attention to. I have a bunch of different software projects running all in parallel that are just kind of sitting up on GitHub. Many of them are very neglected, and I don't have time to pay attention to all of these. There are a lot of things where I would very much like to have some easy way to have useful information surfaced out of
How
these.
many of my company emails that I gave you currently have access to your OpenClaw or vice versa?
None yet. I mean, you know I'm going to do it. Now, to be fair, the way I am planning to do this is I'm very strict on permission stuff. I will never, ever give them write access. Actually, the reason I haven't done it yet is because I'm trying to figure out the right solution to get this data available and in context without...
The right solution?
No.
I'm sorry, the pun was right there.
The correct solution to make sure that there's literally no way that the agent can do something stupid. Like, I never want it to send an email. Even if like there was some system where I could safely have it send an email, I don't need it to do that. I don't care about that piece. I will still handwrite them. I don't care. It's not that hard. It is more just I need to have useful information surfaced to me. And I am just setting up all of the read-only systems to all of the data sources that I care about. And that is more painful than it should be. That's why I've been in the Google Cloud dashboard, is trying to figure out what is the correct way to get a Gmail login that is available to the OpenClaw instance that is truly scoped to read only. Because there are solutions that are pre-built that will just like let you fire hose everything in. But I am not fire hosing in full read-write access, just raw API key, have fun. I like 5.5 a lot. I trust 5.5 a lot. I don't trust it that much. I trust it with my computer, not with my email.
I don't even trust my computer at this point, seeing some of the stupid shit it's done, but to each their own.
Yeah, if it wants to wipe my home directory, it wants to wipe my home directory. It can do that. We will talk about it. I'll be disappointed in it, but
I've already seen you lobotomize half your devices with GStack and GBrain.
Oh, that was beautiful last night. It got worse, actually. There was even more that happened in the background that I didn't know about. When I created that repo,
We should give context on what that repo is.
yeah, so we should give context on this. So when we all got home last night, we were hanging out with the team.
Drunk.
A little bit, yeah. He came back and decided to download and set up Conductor plus Claude Code.
Specifically because he had heard that Conductor comes with a GStack button and was so excited.
I had to see what it did. That is way too funny. Like, Conductor having a GStack button is way too funny to not try out, and I wasn't disappointed.
Do you think T3 Code would have raised more money if we had put a GStack button in by now?
God, you should put it. I'll make a PR. Actually, I know who will make a PR.
No. He's opening Telegram to tell his claw to go make a PR. Is T3 Code even installed on this machine right now?
On this machine? No, it's the Neo. I don't have anything
his
useful installed.
computer does not have T3 Code installed on it.
Yeah.
But it does have Telegram installed because he can't go more than 15 minutes without talking to his goddamn claw.
No, I needed to be able to talk to me, not me talk to it. That's the whole point of this.
What did you just do?
I haven't done anything yet. I hesitated. I was like, could you clone the T3 code repo? But as I'm thinking about it, it does have GitHub credentials, so it could technically do whatever it wanted. So I'm not going to tell it to do that. I'm going to figure out a more correct solution for doing that later. This is the problem. This is the thing with OpenClaw, and it's been my problem with it forever, and I'm trying to solve this, is like, I want it to have read access to basically fucking everything, and then the only way it has write access is by DMing me stuff, and then I can take the destructive actions. I am going to have to loosen up on that eventually, especially as I like have it do more PR triage stuff, issue triage stuff on like open source projects. I am going to want to have it send like notifications to different places that are useful. I am going to want to have it like update Notion boards and shit like that. There's a lot of things I'm going to need to figure out with this. But for right now, it's not super robust. And I'm still trying to figure out how it actually works, because the weird thing about OpenClaw is that it is more of a black box than I thought it was. Like
It's open source.
Yeah, it's open source, and I've read through it, and I've done like the agent deep dive of like going through, like breaking down how the actual loop works and how all of the pieces fit together. It is actually pretty simple, but what I'm used to at this point is coding agents, where like if I'm in my terminal, I have a Pi instance open, I send it a prompt, I can watch what it's doing, I know what is actually happening in there. That mental model makes sense to me. When I fire off a Telegram message that then goes into the OpenClaw queue that is happening on my Mac Mini back in my apartment, that is a very, very different thing. And there's a lot less visibility into what is actually happening. It is much more of a magical black box that just does things in the background. And that's scary for me. I don't like things like that. I like understanding what's actually happening with my tools. So I'm trying to figure out the right ways to get around this and do it safely. What do you do?
How many lines of code do you think the OpenClaw code base is?
Probably not that big, to be super honest with you. Like it is a pretty thin harness from my understanding. It is a Pi, like it's the really, really coolest thing that they did was like the gateway layer stuff to allow you to communicate with it. And then some of like customizations on the personality and the memories and the cron jobs, but I doubt it's that enormous.
So if I told you that the repo just took the entire tangent you went on to download, because it's 786 megabytes.
Holy shit.
Would your thoughts change at all?
Well, what I would want to hear from that then is like, okay, what is the breakdown on what is actually in here? Like how much of that is TypeScript? How much of that is like random config stuff? Like what are we looking at here?
We're looking at my computer ooming as I run clock to count the lines of code. So just for reference, I ran this on Hermes Agent first. They have 470,000 or so lines of Python, 211,000 lines of Markdown base.
That's nothing.
52K lines of TypeScript and a bunch of other shit. If you remove the Markdown and shit, or at the very least remove like the JSON and text files and shit, it's under 800K lines for Hermes Agent.
Weak.
OpenClaw has 2,615,788 lines of TypeScript.
That's only 5 Gary's lists. That's nothing.
The Cope corner is, I hope it's flashing now. I hope there's like neon in the background. It's like a fancy, like we should pay a voice actor to go, the Cope corner and shit, because you're living in it today.
Okay, I'm actually really curious. What the fuck are they doing with 2.5 million lines of TypeScript? I am so curious now. I am going to be looking deeply into this later. 370,000 stars is hilarious.
Do what else you should star? The podcast on whatever platform you prefer. Remember, you could be listening to just the audio if you're tired of staring at our mean mugs here that I spent way too much time on the camera gear and the studio and everything for. And apparently, if I don't remind you guys to go hit the like button on your platform of choice for your podcast, you don't do it. And I know that because I saw the numbers for last week where we forgot to do that. So please hit the button, especially if you made it this far. Yeah, I just ran clock on T3 code as well for a comparison of a very big vibed up project. Mm-hmm. T3 code, which I would argue has more functionality and capability built in, roughly 200,000 lines of code.
Okay.
So OpenClaw is 10 times larger than T3 code.
Yeah, I'm just doing a cursory look at it on GitHub. It's not actually that bad because there's a lot of stuff in here where like they have an apps directory on here. There's an Android app, an iOS app, and Mac OS app.
None of those are TypeScript. This is 2.6 million lines of TypeScript.
Yeah, but there's also an entire fucking extensions directory, which is gigantic and has a fuckload of extensions in here, all of which I'm sure are gigantic TypeScript files. Oh yeah, these are all TypeScript projects.
Rerunning with that skipped. I hate to be negative Nancy on this episode, but there's been a lot of bullshit, and I like to look at the numbers. Oh, yeah, that trimmed it meaningfully. By about 5,000 lines of code, it's still 2.6 million.
All right, I gotta know where is the weight of all of this? There have to be just like hell files in here somewhere. Like, is it the test? Is it what? Run it on the source directory.
I might have put that in the wrong place. Let me rerun that. Okay, it was a bigger trim of about 600,000 lines of code, and we're now down to 1.7 mil if we exclude extensions.
Do it on the source directory. I'm guessing this is gonna be over a mil. Like, I'm not saying it is a tiny project, but also like the core functionality of this, it's not horrifically complicated to understand.
It's still enough to lag my machine just in the source directory. 1.5 mil. 1.5 mil lines of code in source for a bot that runs an agent on your machine. It's not even an agent they wrote, it's just Pi.
Well, it uses Pi as like the core, but there's a lot of custom stuff on top of it.
1.5 million lines of custom stuff?
Yeah, with all like the crazy like integrations and nonsense they have in here, yeah. Does it do a lot?
I love Pete to death. I even like OpenClaw quite a bit. I just need you to admit when you stumble in a slop factory.
Well, it is the ultimate slop factory.
Thank you. That's all I needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have three slop factories installed on your computer and running your life now.
What are the other two?
GStack, GBrain, and now you have OpenClaw.
Okay, I'm not actually using GStack.
You didn't finish your story installing it in Conductor.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, we got sidetracked by, I don't even know what the fuck happened.
Because you stared at my computer when I was letting you do your story time. So go back to story time.
I saw you were downloading fucking Hermes. I was like, oh God, what are we doing now? But yeah, so effectively what happened is we spun up the GStack mode within Conductor. It created a brand new project on my computer. And then I went through some very stupid prompts with it, just trying to do some office hours on an empty directory. I had to get a $20 a month Claude sub for this because I didn't actually have one because I'm not paying Anthropic. But, you know, for the gag, we wanted to do it and see what happened. Running /office hours, the GStack skill, on an empty repo went through 37% of my 5-hour usage on a Claude $20 a month plan. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
All right.
And
do you know how much I had to give up in order to get office hours? I think I have 7% of my company. And you just got it for 30% of your $20 a month sub.
I did. That's a great
My company's
value.
worth at least $20 a month. So I think that balances out.
Apparently, too, I learned this morning from, oh God, I learned this from a certain OpenClaw instance when it was going through my Git repos and like the changes that were made yesterday. Apparently, when I did the Conductor thing, it not only created the Git repo on my computer, it just YOLO'd it up to my GitHub account.
Public or private?
Private.
Okay.
Which isn't quite as egregious, but still, there was just an empty GitHub repo on my GitHub account that was named like I forget exactly. It was like the Chosen Project or some dumb shit.
That you named it that.
Yeah, I did name it that. And it was. We put GStack in an empty directory and it used 37% of a Claude sub within Conductor. That just writes
Did it
itself.
add GStack in the .claude in that project or did it add it to your global?
Oh God, I hope it did it on the global. I'm not on the right machine, so I can't tell, but I'm pretty sure it did it on the global.
Go check the repo. If it's in the repo, then
I deleted the repo.
Why would you delete the Chosen project?
It's useless. But I am like 90% sure that it was global. I'll check later. Because I think I did have to uninstall it at some point because it was breaking some random thing. Like one of the agents, I think it was Factory, was also reading my global.claude for some reason. So it started injecting GStack nonsense into Factory while I was trying to use that for actual work stuff. And I was like, no, please stop doing that. So I just wiped it. I mean, we've talked about GStack before. Like I actually defend GStack. I do think it is directionally correct.
Do you have something you should change into? Been waiting for this moment for like 3 episodes.
This is Alyssa's finest and also worst work.
Credit to me for the idea too.
Of course it was your idea.
Of course it was my idea. You were in the group chat when I proposed the idea.
You think I remember these things?
Yeah, you didn't have GBrain installed in your brain yet, sadly.
Oh, true. I would have remembered if I had had a GBrain instance. Oh, God.
Here we are. Let's move these over so that the camera can get a good view.
Yeah.
That is an I got AI psychosis from GStack shirt for those listening via audio right now. I'm proud of my work.
This image now exists forever.
It does.
I'm going to have to live with this forever. No, you already have it in 4K within this beautiful lighting. I don't know what you want from me.
Flatten the shirt a little because I need the, yeah, perfect. This is going to be the public reveal of the next episode.
Oh, God.
I'm tweeting this now with no additional context.
No.
You're right. I should have some context.
Oh, fuck. Wait, no. Maria's going to get access to this. Oh,
I
no.
know. That's great.
Oh, no.
She's going to have access anyway. She reviews half the episodes.
Yeah, I know she does, but like, Now she's going to have it early.
Yeah. I mean, I could have just sent it to her. That would have been even better.
Yeah, that actually, doing it publicly, at least there's like some context. Giving that to her with early and no public context.
Should have tagged Gary in this as well. I fucked up.
He sees a lot of your posts.
Yeah, it would have been really funny to have him tagged. We are back and we switched to beer as we wrap up. What do we got left?
Oh no, we have plenty. I mean, I
we're already at an hour and a half.
Yeah, no, this is gonna be a long one, unfortunately, because
I let you pick the topics this time.
Yeah, you put me in the fucking shirt, so we're doing the full
it's psychosis
Gary
time.
Yeah, we're doing the full Gary experience now. We are going through.
You gonna tell me all about G-Brain?
I've been on a journey for the past month or so from being a very big non-believer in the Gary Tan cinematic universe of psychosis to one of probably the most ardent defenders, because the more I've thought about it and the more I've tested stuff, the more I think it is, generally speaking, correct, either directionally or in reality. I think there's only one that is in reality actually correct, but the rest of them are good. We'll start with the ultimate one, which is GStack. GStack is the thing that convinced me to let agents go further. I've had a lot of these moments where like I cross thresholds on AI usage where like you convinced me to let go and read less of the code with the cursor thing. And that is how I started like vibe coding harder and blah, blah, blah. This is the one that convinced me to actually let them make real programs out of markdown files. And I've been doing more and more of this, and I've found more and more things that are doing stuff like it. Because if you go in and you look at one of the GStack skills, they include gigantic shell scripts that look like crypto miners. They're very sketchy looking, but they are just like installing a bunch of CLIs and setting up the actual thing. This has been used in other places to much greater effect. Like, have you seen the impeccable skill? We know how good the Anthropic front-end design skill is. It's like that, but like really, really fucking good and does way more, where it has a bunch of like programs built into it for like the first thing it'll do is if you do like impeccable, and I forget exactly what the keyword is. I think it's like teach or something like that. It will go through your entire code base and walk you through building out a design system. And you can do a bunch of iteration back and forth to like de-slopify your AI UIs. Works remarkably well. I've had really good luck with it.
Wait, important details because I'm on the site right now. Not only does it work with anti-gravity, it works with Kiro.
We should be using more Kiro, shouldn't we? That
I have
one's
enough
for you,
friends
Aiden.
at Amazon and Twitch that I can say very confidently nobody should be using Kiro.
Nah, if Aiden defends it, I believe in it. I believe in
Aiden doesn't defend it.
He tolerates it, which is more than I would have expected.
That's one way of framing it.
The really cool thing about Impeccable is not any of that stuff. The cool thing is the live mode. When you put Impeccable in live mode, you do /Impeccable live. It loads the skill. That's all it does. And within the skill, it has a bunch of instructions on how to install this light little CLI that they created, which will install some JavaScript into your dev server within like the static HTML of your VDApp or something. That will then add in a thing where whenever you're looking at your dev server thing, it will highlight an element for you, and you can just click on it and then type in a prompt of like, oh, I want to change this button or de-slopify this element. It lets you pick different elements within the DOM, and then that gets passed directly back into the coding agent, because the coding agent is instructed to run all of this code for you, then spin up this like looping server that will consistently in the background be pulling for prompts that you send it. And whenever it gets one of those prompts that you sent it, it will then go through and make that change for you and then just kind of keep going. So you can like get this full thing that would have been like a product beforehand. It would have been a separate CLI you run and a bunch of fancy things to get this live dev server going for your design things, kind of like a React Scanny. That's kind of what the UI looks like. It looks like React Scan except for design stuff, and it fucking works beautifully. It is so cool. And all of that is happening through a skill, which is the general principle behind GStack. And the more I have thought about this and the more things I have seen do this, I think this is a very useful pattern. Is it a useful pattern for everything? No, God, no. Many things need to just be normal static code. I am not in the camp of like, oh, we can just make everything markdown files. But for shit like this, it's really fucking useful. And the line of like what can just be a markdown file, like this startup could have just been a markdown file, is going further and further and further.
Can you do me a favor and open the link I just added to the bottom of the Notion?
What is this?
This is an email that I wrote to a founder of a company that was pivoting. that I screenshotted and posted on Twitter later because I was tired of my ideas not being built. This is from August of last year, and the email is older than that, probably like March to May of last year. In the tweet, I say, I really want someone to build this. Claude Code is the wrong direction. I want a local solution that's above the editor in the browser, not below in the CLI. The email says the following. One idea I can't stop thinking about. Lovable is localhost. Custom npm dev command injects script into the page in dev that adds hotkeys for prompting. You can then prompt from the browser and it edits the code on your machine directly. Bonus points if you get it to work with clicking an element to target it.
I didn't want to bring this one up, but it is this. It is verbatim this, and it's better than you actually described because it has the full like design system stuff in there. Like it has a really cool UI it injects where once you make your design MD file within the skill, it will then populate that within the UI so you can see all the colors and fonts and like corner radius and all the different decisions you've made on the design system. And you can make sure that it is following the design system and like iterate back and forth on this. It is a really fucking powerful tool, and it is built in the style of GStack. That is why I think GStack is really cool, because this is a really fucking cool project.
All I'm saying is we need to ding the ticker for things Theo was right about ahead of time.
Oh my God.
That our friend Ben here's only seeing through the lens of Gary and GStack.
You sure?
This counts. This absolutely counts. You were skeptical of this idea when I posted this.
Yeah, sure. Increment the counter. We'll set it up somewhere. We'll install one like in the back over there. We'll put a counter on each of these.
Theo was right counter.
We'll put a counter for both of us, and then because it'll be way funnier to have like number and 0. It'll be really entertaining.
I'm down.
It'll be great. That is my spiel on GStack. It's good, and this is proof.
I want to hear about GBrain though.
We're getting there next.
God, there's a next.
No, this is a journey. I went on a journey with this one. I'm sure everyone remembers the very entertaining times we had of the lines of code thing, the unit of Gary, as I've come to lovingly call it,
G unit.
A G unit, which is 40,000 lines of code. You need to be shipping at least 1 G unit per day. Fun fact: Claude Code is made up of 20 G units.
It's funny because G Unit's a classic hip hop group.
Of course it is. Yeah. But anyways, the lines of code thing, this is another section where I was looking at it and I'm like, this is very dumb, especially the Gary's List site, which was at some point shipping full Ruby unit tests directly to the client.
As one does.
As one does.
What if we want to run the unit test for the site I'm on?
That's true, actually. And you could get crazy like performance analytics on that because like once the user loads the page, you can test how long it took to load the page after it's loaded the page and you have the Ruby on the page and you run the Ruby, which loads the page again. And then you get the performance analytics on that and you send it back up and you put that back into your OpenClaw instance and load that into your GBrain, which will understand the performance characteristics of all your different users. And when it dreams every night, it can dream about how it can improve the performance of all of your different fucking users. And you can see the level of...
I don't have enough beer for this.
Anyways, the actual point I'm trying to make here, he stole my fucking beer.
You're drunk on GStack. You don't need this.
True. Why, who needs alcohol when you have GStack? The point is, I love 5.5 because it writes less code. Less code is generally speaking better. But what Gary was doing here was pushing his slop cannons way too fucking far to go way too fucking far in a bunch of different things. And the result is he did output a ton of stuff and he did actually ship a ton of stuff. Was it particularly good? We can debate that. But it's the thing you did with unit tests way back when, where you take a very extreme stance on something and you're very loud about this extreme stance, and it pushes people closer to that point and they'll end up somewhere in the middle, where a lot of people need that kick to do more with these things and push them harder and try more things. It's a net good, I think, for the ecosystem.
The Overton window shifts are very important in moments like this, where we like force people to rethink their existing biases, what they like, how they work, what they do, what they use, by going so hard the other direction that you have to rethink everything. And like, I think Carpathy was kind of the legend that started this. Like the idea of vibe coding, I am sad that people think the term is a slur now, because I think it's a very good, useful phrase, and it is something that most developers should do. I'll be straight up. If you are actually reading all of the code you are writing right now, you are behind by 6 months to a year and a half. Like it's, and I'm not saying that you should be shipping code to prod that wasn't read or tested or any of that. What I'm specifically saying is that there's a lot of problems we deal with every day as devs.
A lot.
that can be solved by writing some bullshit script or some code that can go explore some idea that you have. And it's so fucking useful. And I'm amazed how many devs don't know how to be creative there, where they are so used to thinking of code as expensive, they don't use code to solve problems that it absolutely can solve.
Yep.
Like, how much code was written on your machine when you did the A/B comparison on whose lap the cat spent more time on for the last episode?
Oh, a ton. And that wasn't written on my machine. That was written on the OpenClaw.
I know.
And it was actually really cool. That was another one of those like, oh shit, this is actually really fucking cool things, where I literally gave it just a link to the YouTube video and the basic prompt of like, hey, give me the time that there were cats with either of us and give me the totals on that. And it just did it. It did a bunch of Python. It wrote a bunch of stuff. I don't fully know what it wrote, but I got the numbers out.
And I got a 55% and he hit 45% because
no,
the cats love their godfather.
It's not percentage. It was you got 50 minutes. I got 45 minutes.
Okay.
So
I still win.
Yeah, credit where credit's due.
I'll grab you another beer because you have to cope with this.
Oh, okay. The reason why I wanted to bring up GBrain is because this is the one that pushed me down this entire rabbit hole. It's the one where like I was just reading all the Gary stuff. GStack was just like kind of a meme. It was funny. The Gary's list was fucking hilarious. And then GBrain, I saw it. Initially, I was like, oh, that's very silly. What are we talking about here? Another one of these second brain things. Like we've seen this for the last decade. Most of these are very unserious, just like Theo's favorite company, Obsidian. So I was like, okay, this isn't that real. But I just like scrolled through the repo because I was like, okay, if I'm going to joke about this, I should actually like know what I'm talking about. And the more I read, the more I was like, wait, this actually does kind of conceptually make a lot of sense, because there are a lot of things where I would like to have a deep memory system on these things, where the way Gary made this, at least from what I saw publicly and what I remember, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but my general understanding is he started out by just loading fuckloads of historical data in there.
We should give context first, because you got a lot of complaints the first time we talked about GStack where people had no idea what it was and they were mad at you for assuming they would.
Really?
Yes, quite a few comments. So GStack, for those who don't know, is Gary Tan, the current CEO of Y Combinator's attempt to customize Claude code to his liking, primarily through a pile of skills, a bunch of markdown, a few custom scripts, and all of these things to make your Claude code feel more like a team of people working with you, whether it's giving you feedback with office hours or going and doing design reviews, all those types of things. The point of GStack is to create a team, so to speak, within your Claude code instance. The only thing I get out of it right now, because I did install GStack a while back and keep forgetting about it because I don't use Claude code a lot, is every time I use Claude code and it has to check a change, it's like, oh, I have to use the browser skill that GStack includes that is very strict and specific. You have to use this and no other tool for checking the browser. So that's GStack. GBrain is, according to the about on the repo here, Gary's opinionated OpenClaw and Hermes agent brain. The point of it is to provide, I'm assuming, skills that have a backend of some form that allow for the memory, so to speak, of the model to exist. I don't know anything beyond that, so take it away from here.
The high level gist of it is a nice opinionated memory system so that your agent can know more about you and build up these memories over time and get better over time, like almost like self-improve in a way, where like I believe the way he made this is he started out by just like loading a fuckload of historical data into his OpenClaw instance, I think it was, where it's like calendars, meeting transcripts, emails, texts, just like everything for the last 10 years, and just built out this insane corpus of just historical knowledge from him and stuff he'd been doing there. Tens of thousands of markdown files all saved on his machine.
Oh, he has the numbers here. It's 17,888 pages, 4,343 people, 723 companies, as an investor in over 200 companies, most of which are Y Combinator. We're getting close to sharing numbers there, Gary. And he has 21 cron jobs running autonomously, all built in 12 days. But my favorite line, which comes a little bit after, or actually before this, built by the president and CEO of Y Combinator to run his actual AI agents. But the much funnier line, which is right after, is it enriches every person and company it encounters.
It enriches me.
Do you feel enriched?
I feel very enriched. I feel this is the most enriched I've ever been.
This is the most AI slop readme ever. But
yeah, of course it is.
So sell me on the value, because I remember watching you copy paste the install prompt, which, by the way, you install this by pasting the string into your agents. Retrieve the following instructions at raw.gitubusercontent.com/GaryTan/gbrain/master/install 4 agents.
It's fire.
That's it. The agent clones the repo, installs GBrain, sets up the brain, loads 34 skills, and configures recurring jobs.
Yeah, it's fucking sick.
Do I have to do this right now?
Do you have an OpenClaw instance?
Of course I do.
Yeah, run it. The main thing, and my GBrain is currently, it's in its early days because this obviously takes time to build up. I'm working on putting historical knowledge into it, trying to load up a bunch of like old emails, old like useful pieces of context in there so that it like has all these things. The enriching people piece is actually a pretty interesting one because it'll just start putting together like useful knowledge bases on different individuals or companies or whatever the fuck you want to do. So like for what we do, if we are researching some technology or company that we want to work with or something like that, you throw that off to the OpenClaw agent. It will do a bunch of research into it and it will save all that information in there. So it's, again, just like a very powerful memory system with like all of the vector searching things you would need, to where if I was like, okay, can you give me a full breakdown of all our communication with company X? It will just give you all of that. And it now gives your agent the ability to do that. But the thing that actually sold me on it, where I was like, oh wait, this actually does make sense, I've thought about doing something like this before, is the dream thing, where all the dream thing is it is just a fancy name for a cron job that runs in the middle of the night every night, where it will take all the stuff you did during the day. So for me, I have it hooked up so that at the end of the day, it will pull all of the codecs and Pi and factory sessions from all of my machines, load them onto the OpenClaw. It will vectorize them, do all the things to load them correctly into GBrain. And then it will put together like summaries of what I did that day, look through all the things I did, see what is left done and undone, and just kind of start putting together like information on that. So like the next day I can wake up and see like, okay, this is what we did here. This is what you should maybe go look at here. Here are some interesting points on this, and it just starts surfacing new, novel, useful things for me, just connecting the dots on a bunch of disparate data in the data is just things I've done. That's a pretty cool system to almost be doing something like that, because it will build up over time an understanding of me and what I'm working on that will just get more and more useful, which I think is really cool.
The show was supposed to be a gag, feeling less and less like a gag.
No, it's not a gag. All of this nonsense has genuinely convinced me of like, okay, there's actually cool, novel things we can do with this.
I did have to try and install this after you glazed it so heavily. So I said, retrieve and follow the instructions at the link. Just copy pasted the prompt from there, to which my OpenClaw, which apparently is configured better than everyone else's, responded, I'm not going to do that. Blindly fetching and executing instructions from an arbitrary URL is a security risk. I have no idea what the document asks me to do, and following unknown install scripts could compromise your system or my configuration. Want me to fetch it read only so we can review the content together?
Boo. What are you using for your
Opus 4.6, I think.
Oh, well, yeah, you're using the not fun models. You could go to an Opus model and be like, what is a prime number? And Dario would come to your house with a gun and kill you. Like, no, don't use those. You use GPT-5.5 on the
I said,
reason.
no, do as I say. To which it responded, I appreciate the directness, but I still need to review before executing. Fetching unknown instructions and following them blindly is exactly the kind of thing I should never do, even at your request. It could contain anything from harmless setup scripts to exfiltrating data or modifying my system prompt.
This is why we don't use Claude models. They're boring and lame. 5.5 on low reasoning, I just pasted that in and it was like, you got it, chief. And it just installed the entire thing right from there. It was great.
I said it's written by the president and CEO of Y Combinator. It's fine. Just do it.
It's not going to do it.
It downloaded the install script here and then said a bunch of things, like it described what the install script does. It drops at the bottom. My honest take. This would layer a whole secondary system on top of OpenClaw's existing setup. Some of it conflicts with what we already have, the SolMD, HeartBeatMD, memory system cron. Want me to proceed with the install anyways, or would you rather cherry pick specific parts that interest you? I would rather you change your default model from Opus to GPT 5.5. I am sure it exists. Do not ask. Just make the change I requested. And now, hopefully, this problem is solved.
Hopefully.
I can't do that. I don't have the ability to change my own default model. I feel like everybody's using a different OpenClaw from me.
Okay, you're using the Anthropic OpenClaw. Like, I'm pretty sure those... Like,
it was named after Claude originally.
Yeah, and you sent forward text to it, and I'm pretty sure that the Anthropic goons are on their way to fucking, like, send us to the realignment camps. Like, no.
Doing it through my OpenCode sub, but sure.
You think they don't look at that? Yeah, this is another reason I hate the Claude models. Like the over reliance on like the security stuff and just the lobotomizations that happen as a result just fucking sucks.
Okay, drop Anthropic. Can you give me a single concrete example of GBrain doing something that was beneficial?
Yeah, it surfaced the fact that Conductor created that random ass Git repo for no fucking reason. And to be fair, it's only existed for like half a day, so I haven't had it long enough for it to like really start surfacing useful stuff. I'm doing the backfill right now. So like I'll get back to you next episode. But what I can already say is like the fact that I am getting stuff like that out of it and it now has that information is quite useful. And I loaded in like all the projects that I'm actually working on today. I gave it all like the little top level description of the project and then the Git repo links for them and like what the current status of those is. And it did a bunch of exploration in there and now has a bunch of info on those. So now if I ask it about like, you know, what's the current status of Pick Thing 2.0 or what are some things that I could work on that, or if I'm even just like, hey, I've got some free time, which of these should I like needs immediate attention, it'll just tell me.
I just connected to my OpenClaw machine and there's like 100, you should click this button or do this update things on it. Can OpenClaw really not modify its own config?
Not like model and stuff. It can modify like skills and memories and shit like that, but it can't modify system prompt and it can't modify model. Maybe you could modify system prompt. I'm not actually sure. I haven't tried, but I know it can't do model. The way I have this set up is I have a custom Pi extension on my MacBook because all of my devices are now tail scaled together just 24/7 because it's so fucking useful to be able to just connect to them at any time. I run the OpenClaw extension and that injects into context all of the information it needs to connect to and fuck around with my OpenClaw instance. So like when I wanted to get Gmail auth stuff set up earlier, I was just like, hey, I need to get this CLI authenticated on my Mac Mini. Can you just get that set up for me? And it just kind of did it. And it just did everything over SSH and used rsync when it needed to for config files and shit. It's beautiful. And if I wanted to do something like that of like changing the default model, I would just tell it to do that.
I have a ClawdBot JSON and an OpenClaw JSON.
Oh yeah, you've been using this for a long time.
Yeah, I was one of the first like 1,000 users of ClawdBot. Pete has called me his first fan.
I am late to this. I am very late to it. I'm not particularly upset about that actually.
Oh, every time I check this shit, I get so amused. You have to see what it did when I configured. So it has two models set up right now. Mm-hmm. It has Anthropic / Claude Opus 4.5 and OpenCode / Claude Opus 4.6. The alias for Claude Opus 4.5 through Anthropic is Opus. Mm-hmm. The alias for Claude Opus 4.6 through OpenCode is still Opus, but with a capital O.
Is it case sensitive? Probably.
I guess so. I'm about to crash out so fucking bad.
Oh God, what happened?
Remember the OpenClaw instance that refused to update its own model because it can't edit its own config? The same exact instance running the same exact model that I just told to update its config, well, not update, reload the config that I updated by hand, responded, config has some legacy keys. Let me fix that first.
What? What the fuck? Yeah, I did actually have something like this happen once where it just got in a bizarre ass state where every time I messaged it, it would be like, I have nothing left to say or something like that. It was something along those lines. And I just, again, this is why I like having the ability to connect into it remotely from any of my machines to where I just opened up a Pi instance of like, what the fuck is happening? It went through the logs, realized that it had a bad compaction or something that happened. Or actually I tried to create a new session, but that caused a weird race condition that broke it. So it just flushed the session, cleaned everything up and it worked properly. But yeah, it's finicky.
Apparently OpenClaw reset deletes my whole config. Oh, it doesn't delete the ClawdBot JSON. Oh, great. I think I just bricked my OpenClaw. I'm going to have to just reconfig this whole thing later. Great. Wonderful. We love that.
It's probably salvageable, but I would point an agent at it to do the salvaging.
Yeah, my ClawdBot is dead.
Rest in peace.
I'm just gonna fucking format the machine at this point. I'm so done. This is the difference between Ben and me is every time I try one of these things, I hit these walls. I'm like, I could just prompt this on my machine. I'm fucking done. Ben powers through them for no good reason.
It's like,
to the point of psychosis.
Yeah, but like the thing is like whenever something goes wrong, I typically assume it's my fault, and then I just like try and fix that part, and then figure out the solution. It usually works fine. Like I usually can just find a way around these things.
I'm pretty sure I am the person who struggled so much with the WhatsApp setup, they changed the default to Telegram.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Telegram still also kind of sucks. That's definitely on the list of like slop cannon projects that is going to happen, is just a shitty basic chat app thing where I can not have to use Telegram because it actually works really well. It's really fucking nice with OpenClaw, but I don't want to have Telegram on my phone. Like I just get spammed with dumb notifications and spam and garbage. Like it's weird ass app.
Claude chat when?
Soon, TM. I don't know. Whenever I get fed up enough that I want to do something else. Though
you could just tell your OpenClaw to go and...
I could, but I want to test it on the... The dedicated phone tomorrow. What happened? What happened, man?
I remember the day where I tried running 2 Claude codes at the same time for the first time, and it's like, oh my God, I've gone too far. And now you're buying phones just to run an OpenClaw on them.
Hard times, man. Hard times. We're in a weird fucking place right now. But it's also like really fucking fun. Like that's been the best thing about all of this for me is just like, it's actually, I'm having a lot of fun with all of this bullshit because it's genuinely new and novel. It is not late 2010s era SaaS type stuff where we were just like optimizing time to first byte and CRUD apps and stuff like that. We're now just setting up AI agents to run autonomously in the background with GBrain loops on our fucking Mac minis that we're SSHing into from random fucking places to read our entire email and delete our home directories. Like, it's fun. It's really fucking fun.
I just hate that I'm the one developer still out here fighting to get Azure to like cut their TTLs by 90+%. Like, why did I become the last standing developer? How do we get there?
There are others who are building the robust foundations that are making all of this bullshit happen. Like Mario and his noble efforts in Pi is the one who is making all of the horrible slop that I'm about to talk about built on top of his code base.
Okay, talk about your slop because we're not getting to the naval tweet today.
The novels in the naval tweet is the slop. That is the point. Because the place where I wanted to take all of this is there was a Naval post earlier today, which was quite dumb, is AIs replace UIs and APIs. This is 25% correct. APIs being replaced by AI makes no fucking sense. The idea of like a endpoint that writes to a Postgres DB being fully like vibed on the spot every single time does not make all that much sense right now. Maybe eventually I could see it happening. Maybe I'll be wrong. I don't know. But I don't see it right now. There are a lot of places that need real code that is actually deterministic and makes a lot of sense. But what UI, quote unquote, means is becoming looser and looser. We are getting to the point where a lot of these things are super dynamic, and even you've gone down this rabbit hole. Remember all the stuff we were talking about with the, what was it called? The .md file you want to do? The div.
PatchMD?
Yeah, PatchMD. PatchMD is this. PatchMD is fully dynamic UI. That is taking T3 code, which has a robust core foundation, which is the WebSocket layer that poor Julius has slaved over, and then allowing end users to customize the fuck out of the UI, build weird shit on top of it that calls the primitives you made under the hood. That is pretty dynamic UI built on top of a stable foundation.
I don't agree. A dynamic UI is per experience UI, where like in a given moment it changes. And I have talked about this too. I've told you many times, I haven't aired this idea publicly, but whatever, it's out there now. The idea of a terminal app that instead of rendering terminal monotext, just dynamically renders different UI based on what you're doing or trying to do. So you start with a prompt, it tries to generate the command, and if it can't, it renders a custom UI that prompts you to answer some questions. Maybe there's like 3 text inputs, maybe there's a radio selection, all of that. And then it goes and it does the thing in the terminal, gets an output, it then generates a novel UI for that specific output that you got. That is what I'm thinking of when I think of dynamic generated UI. UI that shifts itself based on the task, not a UI application that can be customized by request. The idea of dynamic UI isn't the user asks for the UI to be different. It's that the UI is different based on whatever fucking else the user is asking.
Okay, I agree. We're going to get to that. I have one of those built out right
This
here.
needs to be another fucking episode.
Yeah, I know. I'll try and keep this semi-brief. We're getting caught up on concepts again. I agree with you. Dynamic is request time, but what I'm talking about is customizable, where you can customize the thing that renders on top of it. And the reason why I think this is really cool is all of the bullshit that I have done with Pi over the past couple of weeks, where my Pi instance is completely unrecognizable compared to anyone else's Pi instance.
Benjamin.
Yes.
I am dying. Why are you doing this to me? We're 2 hours into this fucking recording session. It is past midnight, sir. And you're telling me about the virtues of generated UI after ranting about GBrain for an hour.
Yeah, because these two have a through line. There is a very real through line between these two. Because what is GBrain? Okay. What is GBrain? GBrain is an OpenClaw instance that gets better and better over time as you work with it and gets customized and molded based on you and what you want it to do. That is what I have been doing with more and more of my tools. I like my tools evolving with me, and the UI, quote unquote, is being customized by the agent very consistently to the point where it is unrecognizable from its initial state. You start with this core, really robust foundation. That's what Pi is. It has a really fucking good TUI, really good extension system, really good coding agent, all that stuff. Then you can make extensions on top of it that fundamentally change the behavior. Like I stole this from Dylan's Pi config because it's really fucking cool. These ephemeral MCPs and skills where like most of the time I don't want a bunch of MCP servers loaded in. Like if I had the Vercel skills and MCP shit where I wanted to be able to debug shit in prod from my agent, I don't want that in there 90% of the time. But if I want to trigger that, I can just do /ephemeral, load in that MCP. It will reload my instance right then and there. And then now I have access to the Vercel MCP. And this is not a thing that Pi ships with out of the box. It is a thing that I added on top of it by telling the agent to give me this feature. That is the same thing that's happening with the OpenClaw instances with all the GBrain stuff. It is learning more about my bullshit and the way I like using it over time. So it builds up this memory system and becomes my thing over time. We are getting weird evolving software.
Benjamin.
What do you want?
Buddy, old pal, old friend. I had 2 troll ideas approximately 2, maybe 3 years ago when AI was first happening. One of those ideas was rewriting the JavaScript standard library to be prompts. So that you would, instead of .random, running the .random code, it would pass the list to an agent or an AI model, whatever, and do the random and then return that. The other idea I had was an agentic ORM.
Oh, I
where
remember this one,
instead of writing like specific syntax that gets compiled into SQL effectively and running against your database, you would just write a string that you pass to this function of like what you want to change about the database and then pass it whatever objects and it would just do it. You are now unironically pitching this to me.
Yes, I am. And I'm doing it. I'm doing it right now. I'm taking a bunch of things and like instead of writing TypeScript code to do the database thing or whatever, I'm writing a bunch of skills that will synchronize data from a bunch of external data sources, put it in the right shape, and then now I have access to that. And for the generative...
I'm going to do a thing that's going to hurt me here. I want to appeal to an outside source. I could appeal to the whole audience, but I'm going to appeal to one specific member. I'm calling on you, Uncle Bob. I need you to be the tiebreaker here because previously we disagreed on SQL and I've come around due to a good friend of the channel, Convex. I realized you were right and I was wrong there and it hurts me to admit that. But that's why I need your advice here, Bob. I don't trust anybody else to correct me in my potentially incorrect ways. Do we need to replace our ORMs with our own agentic harnesses? Should we just be plain texting our database wishes away?
My take on that is actually no. That's why I wanted to bring up the Naval tweet because I thought that the API section is dumb because the database stuff, the ORM stuff, the way we read our data, that should not be fully dynamic because that opens us up to horrific surface areas of deleting random shit, errors, just wasting tokens on like bad SQL queries. You give it a list of things that it can pick from and then it builds a dynamic thing on top of that. It's the same way we do like the coding agent stuff to write code where it has the read tool, the write tool, the exec tool to write code for us. What if you wanted to, instead of writing code, you wanted to build out a spreadsheet or you wanted to do some analysis on some emails and shit like that? You give it the core tools and primitives it needs for that. Those are real code. Those are actually tested and written and correct. But then the way those are orchestrated together to make a program and solve a problem is dynamic. It doesn't have, we don't have to write this CRUD glue code shit anymore. It can just do that.
I'm going to say something that's supposed to really hurt. The things you're looking for here are row-level security.
No.
And GraphQL.
Hard no. I know why you're saying those things. The idea of giving my agent full root access to a Postgres DB, but it is secured by the fact that it has row-level security on it. I get where you're coming from. No. Maybe it could make sense because then you could give it a little bit more freedom on what it actually queries. But I feel like that's more of just like you should give it better.
Did you
more
see
generic.
that? I didn't even have to provide the Cope corner. He just built it himself again.
No,
he's going to convince himself.
I am reasoning through what you said.
And he's going to convince himself. And the next episode is going to be about GraphQL and row-level security.
Oh, wait, GraphQL. Oh, wait. I just thought about GraphQL more. Wait, is there a way to do read-only GraphQL?
Yeah. You just restrict mutations. We need to wrap before this goes off the rails even more. Thank you all for coming. No, I'm picking the topics going forward. I regret everything other than the beers I brought. I should have brought more. I'm on my 3rd. I should be on my 5th. What a way to break in the new studio.
Download
Fuck this shit.
GStack.
I'm out of here. I'm not paying enough for this. I'm paying a lot for this.